fantastical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL Network.
Yes, that is right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hot Take Show covering the friggin' Will Forte episode of Saturday Night Live. I am so pumped. I've been so excited. It's been 12 long years that I've waited for Will Forte to come and host the show, and I'm so thrilled that he came in tonight. And we are going to talk through the entire episode with a wonderful group of panelists, as well as everybody here in the chat. If you are just checking us out for the first time, please click that subscribe button at the SNL Network to make sure to get all of our coverage of the Will Forte week. We'll be back with our roundtable on Monday, our patron feedback show, and Hollywood Dish later in the week. Okay, let's get into it. This is the way we start the show. So chat, I want to hear your opinions as we get through everything. We start with our hot takes or headlines for the night. And Sammy Kay, I will send it over to you. Sammy, give us your hot take for the Will Forte show.
Ooh, hot take for the Will Forte show. I guess my hot take would have to be, it was great to see Kristen Wiig, show up in a cameo and appear in a couple sketches. As a greedy, sort of fan of that era of the show, my hot take is I feel like we could have used a little bit more of like a celebration in regard of maybe another cameo from somebody with, a sketch I was hoping for was, the classic ESPN sketches with, Jason Sudeikis. I was really, hoping for that, even though I know he's in London, but I think Jason Sudeikis is in London now.
There was an ESPN sketch that was cut, but that wasn't the ESPN classic sketch. So it was.
I'm almost happy.
Yeah. No, I'm saying if anybody hears about that, it was ESPN First Take that was cut, not ESPN Classic.
But yeah, I guess that would be my hot take. Is I was hoping for a little bit more of that, old school flavor. I guess I'm a little greedy in that regard, though.
Okay, got you. All right, Jillian, let me send it over to you. I know you were so excited to see Will on the show. What is your hot take from the night?
Yeah, I was so excited. I think it lived up to my hype. I thought it was probably my favorite episode of this season. I think I got most everything that I wanted. I really was hoping it would be even weirder than it was and really kind of integrate with the cast to really go full 10-to-1 weirdo Will Forte mode that I really loved from back in his era, but I was really happy with what we got. It seemed like we got a ton of sketches, so I was really pleased.
Okay, interesting. We're gonna talk about that in a second. Nicole, let me send it to you first. What is your hot take from the night?
Overall, I was so impressed, and I feel like I was being hard on this. You know this better than anyone, John. I was being really hard on this episode leading up to it. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted to psych myself out for some reason so that I'd be really happy with the outcome, and that's exactly what happened. So some weird psychology I had going on. It was really great. I thought they did a really good job of integrating the old school, semi-old school, if you want to call it that, Will Forte stuff into the present era. I will say the material and the content, I think, was integrated better than actually Will into the cast. It felt like there was a lot of good cast integration in terms of opportunities. Like Update was massive. We had 4 different cast members, 3 segments, and 4 cast members have time on Update, which is very rare. And so we had a lot of great stuff from cast, but we didn't have that much Will and cast. It felt like great cast stuff going on, and then great Will and Kristen stuff going on. And I wish there was a little more synergy there. That's my main headline. But overall, I really had a lot of fun.
Yes.
It was fun to watch.
Okay. So I agree. And I will say, Jillian, I second what you're saying. I had so much fun with tonight, but I will try and be as objective as possible and say from an SNL perspective, the timing on the episode was definitely a little bit off. I would say that the weekend update, to me, may have been the best weekend update of the entire season. And we'll talk about it. but it felt like a completely different show from the show we were getting for the rest of the night. And that was weird because it was like I was watching, and I made this point. I said, hey, when a former cast member comes back and hosts the show, you have to expect that you're going to integrate them into 2022. It's Will Forte's episode, but in 2022. But actually, what I felt like we got tonight was we almost got a little bit of a 2008 episode of SNL with a 2022 weekend update, which I didn't hate, but I just felt like that is how I could sum up what we saw tonight. And the craziest thing for me was like we had a few live sketches that were cut like live, and I would have loved to seen those. I mean, I hope they go up on YouTube, but Jillian, you were talking about like the weirdness we could have potentially gotten from Forte. I wonder if there was more weird stuff in those live cut sketches that we didn't end up seeing because Weekend Update was so long tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's get into the show. We'll talk through all the segments and we'll get into everything. Chat, I definitely want to get your feedback as we get through tonight. Okay, let's start with our cold open from the evening. We have the Ingraham, so do I say that correctly? Angle. It's the 5th time for Kate McKinnon playing her and the 4th time we're seeing this segment. The last time we saw this was actually in the episode prior to the pandemic, the break. It was March 7th, 2020 with the Daniel Craig episode. And yeah, interesting stuff we saw tonight with 80 Bryan playing Ted Cruz for the 8th time, Pete coming out as Novak Djokovic, Candace Owens being played by Ego, and of course the 3rd time we get to see James Austin Johnson as Donald Trump. So Sammy, over to you on your thoughts on the cold open. Chat, let us know your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I was pretty mixed on this cold open. I think there are definitely a lot of solid jokes in there, but I felt like it was almost the second half of it sort of saved it for me. I felt like Ego and, of course, J.J.'s Trump contributions were a lot stronger to me than the beginning of the sketch. And it was kind of, at first, I was like trying to like get a grasp or just trying to get like invested in it. But 80s Ted Cruz, I want to like try to like, be positive, but I really, it just doesn't do it for me at this point. And I almost can kind of like tune out when the show kind of goes there now. But I mean, overall, like I said, I think the second half was a lot stronger. I'm happy that JJ was able to bring in Wordle as a way to kind of change up that segment, because I really like the kind of 60 seconds on the clock thing when he first did it, but I thought it was something that could definitely get old. I mean, I think that he did it twice. The first time he did it like back to back, and I was like, all right, we're doing this again. So I'm glad they kind of changed it. Not only because I just discovered Wordle like yesterday, so it was very topical for me, but kind of a mixed bag. But definitely stronger in the second half.
Okay, Jillian, what were your thoughts on the cold open?
Yeah, I had this second where she was throwing to Trump that I winced, forgetting that it wasn't going to be Alec Baldwin. I was like, oh God, he's back. And then I was like, oh yeah, JJ is our new Trump. And I was so excited that this is how they introduced Wordle to kind of mix up what he normally does. And instead of having a full Wordle sketch, which I'm already so over Wordle, but I thought this was really a brilliant way to bring that in. And I love his take on Trump. I think he's doing a great job. So yeah, I was happy with it. I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, Sammy, with kind of the opening. They were kind of all over the place, but I like to see all the cast there, and I liked having Kate back, kind of going full Kate. I don't know, like this whole season when she wasn't around, when she was filming, I was kind of not looking forward to her coming back to kind of dominate, but now that she's back, I'm really excited to have her back.
Yeah, that's for sure. Nicole, if you would have listened, if like people would have listened to the Hollywood Dish from this week, they would have been explained what Wordle is prior to the cold open.
That's right. I think this week we did a really good job
You
with,
did.
not that we always do, but Hollywood Dish. We predicted a lot of stuff that ended up being in the cold open. So I think that's the main reason I loved this cold open. It was entirely selfish and just personally rewarding, because we talked so much about a lot of the stuff that ended up being in it. But I really did love it. I think also it was just very different from the ones. This season has been really either like these very long one person starring, and by one person I pretty much mean JJ as either Biden or Trump, and having this big starring role with a few people here and there, or it's these sort of rotating door kind of things like what we got today. And this worked for me. I think coming off of the last cold open, which I was a bit disappointed with, and I had really wished that the Eric Adams sketch had been the cold open last week. So coming off of that, this was the exact type of energy I was craving. It was just like so many moving parts, so many different people. They covered so much ground, and all of that ground covered, I think, was the reason why Update was able to have more fun, because the cold open was so dense. So we got to do like that fun Sarah stuff, and Bowen got to go a little bit news topical, but then totally off the rails. And then of course the Pete and Colin news got to be really fun there too. So it was just all over the place, but also very organized, and the jokes felt well written in a way that last week I think felt like, if you had told me that last week the cold open had been written with much less time, that would make more sense to me. I don't know the details.
Yeah.
We could talk about it, but this one, it just felt like the jokes were more premeditated and like organized within this chaos structure, and that just is, I think that's a good cold open, a third of the time, and in this instance it worked very well for me.
Yeah, I believe this one wasn't last minute cold open, as far as I understand, for sure. But look, there was two thoughts that I had on this cold open. One was, if you're gonna do the JAJ's Trump thing, I get it. Like, it's not for everybody, but I think he's just so good at it. Then like buy in completely and just make it the whole thing. Like that was kind of like my 2 cents on it. But I think Casey said this in the chat, and I had the same thought, Casey. I was thinking about this. When Kate McKinnon was saying that the next person that was going to come in for the segment, I was waiting for Tim Calhoun. And I just so expected that was what was going to happen that I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed not to see Tim Calhoun in the cold open. I think it took it away for a little bit. But I will say, I do think, despite, people being tired of seeing, Trump on SNL or impressions of Trump on SNL, I just think it's so damn good that it's kind of just like fascinating to watch. So, you know what? It's been a couple months since we saw it. I don't hate it. But overall, cold open was okay for me. Anyone else got anything on the cold open?
I fully agree with you. Other than Punky and Melissa being absent, Tim Calhoun's absence was the saddest part for me of the whole show.
Right. Yes, definitely. Okay. But Will Forte comes out for the monologue, and this was a lot of fun. It was so nice getting to see how much this meant to Will Forte to come back and host SNL. I know it was wrapped up in the jokes of, like all of, my friends have hosted before me. I said this last week on the Hot Take Show. I have spoken to Will Forte. I've had this conversation with him. There was some truth to what he was saying. He was like, when are they going to call me to do this? When are they going to call me to host? And I felt bad that they never did. And then now that they finally did, he was just so happy to be there. And this was really, really fun. And I really think took a crazy fun turn when we had Lorne Michaels and Willem Dafoe in the monologue. Jillian, can I start with you on this one? Can you tell me your thoughts on the monologue?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved the nostalgia of him referencing everyone. Now that you tell that story, it makes me really sad because he's right. Like, Seth Meyers has his own show, so that makes sense. But like Mulaney coming back multiple times while Will had other shows and things going on. It's not like he was in obscurity this whole time. So, yeah, it was really nostalgic for me. I thought it was really funny. The band starting to play him off when he got sincere was really funny. And then us getting the Lorne audience question cameo and then the surprise of Willem Dafoe. I thought it was really fun monologue.
Yeah. It was really fun, and it's pretty like it's I think they've done this a lot in earlier eras of the show, but it's kind of cool to see the host coming up next week. I know that oftentimes SNL will invite a host to come the week before to watch what happens as they prepare for the show. So I assume that it just fit really well to throw Willem into the monologue. Nicole, what were your thoughts on the monologue we saw tonight?
Yeah, I loved it. It was just so jam-packed full of every type of emotion. That was my main takeaway, was it was nostalgic, it was heartfelt, it was charming, it was witty. It was really like all these different things wrapped in one, whereas I think most monologues only take a few minutes to try to nail down like 2 or 3 emotions. This one just like went all over the board, but in a really seamless way, and in just an authentic way. And I think that's only the kind of thing that can be achieved by someone who has been on that stage many times, not in a host capacity, but in a capacity nonetheless as a cast member. And I think he seemed both very natural up there, but also really humble and grateful and excited. And like, he made it clear that he was just like above all else, like excited and happy. And it was very, very heartwarming. And then, the Lauren cameo is, I think, our stats side. I think we're gonna keep talking about that, because for this to be the time that Lauren shows his face again for the first time in quite a while, it's very noteworthy. And I mean, my mind goes to, little Peacock. I see Lauren and I think NBC, and so I think there was some good strategy there, and I like the game. But yeah, so no Lauren for Jason, yes Lauren for Will. It was interesting. That's one of my main takeaways that I'm gonna keep analyzing in my head, like when I can't fall asleep. It's like, why this time? I'm fascinated.
And why not a bit where Aristotle comes up and slaps him, just as a wink to Reddit.
Right. Yeah, to get them going. I thought, people in the chat were saying that the poll at the end was really good. I mean, the poll was amazing. That was a great part of the monologue. But just to reference that point about Lauren Michaels appearing on the show, I actually didn't realize until after the season last year that Lauren Michaels did not appear at all in season 46, like an actual sketch appearance. And I went and I looked back, and it was literally the first time he was not in an episode the entire season since season 13 of the show, so 1987, 1988. So for him to like come all the way back now for the first time in a couple seasons, that was really fun. Okay, Sammy, give me your thoughts on the monologue.
Well, I mean, first of all, I like really loved it. I felt like it was a monologue that was like directly made for like people like us or like SNL super fans, especially people who are like a big fan of his era on the show. I also thought this monologue hit extra hard for me because like an hour before the show, every Saturday of the year, my mom will text me asking if SNL's new, like I'm Google or something. And so she asked me like, who's on SNL tonight? And like, I said, Will Forte. And she's like, who's that? And I sent her a picture of Will Forte. And I'm like, yeah, he was a cast member for a long time. And she didn't know who Will Forte was. And that like speaks to like this
sacrilegious
like monologue. It's ridiculous. I might disown her. But it speaks to like this monologue in, the sense of like, it's his time. Like they saved the best for last. And like the pathos of, you can really tell that, this is something he's been wanting to do for a long time. And I really, really enjoyed it. I think everyone's kind of covered how I felt about it, but I really liked it.
Yeah, and I will say, like, this is a great example of, obviously people are different ages and grew up with SNL in different eras, but if you ever have gone back and you've watched every single one of the episodes that Will Forte has been in, or most of the episodes or most of the seasons, I mean, this is a payoff that you wait for in SNL that is unlike any other show on television. I mean, there's nothing else that compares to it, to having, see this guy come back 12 years later and know exactly, how he felt about it. And, so many times just seeing him on the show and getting to have this moment, I think was just really fulfilling for all SNL fans. So wonderful to see. Okay, let's get into the sketches from the night. And we will start off with something I love, something I wish SNL would do more. They did not go to commercial after the monologue. They went right into a pre-tape, which is really, really fun to get to see the first bit we saw with the 10th SNL version of MacGruber, where we get to see he's anti-vax and anti-Semitic. Nicole, let me start with you on this one. Thoughts?
Oh, it was great. And I agree. I think especially when the sketch or pre-tape right after the monologue is very host heavy, I think it's a great opportunity. Just like right after the monologue, keep it rolling, like give us a little bit more of the host in another way. So yeah, I like to see MacGruber in 2022. I think that a lot of those jokes were really, not that they wrote themselves because they were very smart and everything, but it felt like they were just perfect. And it was a very great taking that and putting it here. Of course I loved the, are you anti-Semitic or asymptomatic? I'm going to have to use that myself now. That was pretty genius. So I took note of that one. That's my main takeaway from this first MacGruber installment of the evening. Fabulous line.
Yeah, and thanks for the chat who told us at in dress rehearsal that they had a commercial that did get cut that was also supposed to be after the monologue, and I believe that commercial was also cut from last week's show as well. Sammy, let me go to you. Your thoughts on the first installment of MacGruber that we saw tonight?
Well, I really enjoyed seeing MacGruber back. I've been watching the show on Peacock. Here's another free Peacock plug for the people at NBC. But no, I mean, it was great. It was great to see MacGruber back. It was really interesting to me that they brought in like Ryan Phillippe from the show and from the movie, as opposed to just bringing a cast member in. I think it would have been cool to see a cast member kind of like injected into that world, kind of like what we were talking about earlier about like the kind of lack of cast, interaction. I think that would have been nice, but I think overall I enjoyed it. Definitely a lot of good jokes in there. At first, though, I will admit that my reaction was, we're doing jokes about masks, we're doing jokes about the vaccine. It did feel even like within the pandemic era, like already kind of dated, but then I kind of like let go of that. I'm like, but you're obviously going to want to do that with everything going on. And I think MacGruber is like the perfect sort of character to kind of bring that element in. So even though at first I was like kind of conflicted on it, I think I am glad they went in that direction.
Yeah, but Jillian, I mean, when you watch this, you sort of think to yourself, you're like, well, if Will was on the cast right now, this is what he would be doing. He would be taking, these real life topics and putting them into MacGruber. So that's what was exciting to me, because it was like I could put myself in a place thinking, what if Will Forte was still on the cast?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was such a natural progression for MacGruber, and the way that they escalated it through the night, I thought really worked for me. I agree. It was like, I didn't recognize Ryan Phillippe at first when he had the mask on. I was like, which cast member is that? Is that Alex? And then we took it off. I'm like, oh, okay, like it's fun that he's there, but I really agree. It would have been the perfect time to integrate another cast member. I mean, that's the way that we enjoyed MacGruber over the years, was always Will and a guest and another cast member. So yeah, I agree. I think that would have been a more fun way to go. Or I mean, maybe have Ryan come in for one or pop in as a special cameo later, but I think that was a missed opportunity, but the rest of it really hit for me.
Yeah, definitely. And Ryan Phillippe was one of the hosts, I think from season 35. I think he was one of the last hosts that Will had while he was a cast member. So obviously built that connection, then ended up being in the MacGruber movie and the MacGruber TV
I think it was
series.
to promote the movie, actually. It like came out around that time. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, it was an interesting perspective. I mean, I do think about some of the guests that have come in prior. Obviously, we just recently saw the Betty White coming in as MacGruber's grandmother, so that was something that was brought up again.
So good.
Over the holidays. MacGyver, they came in as MacGruber's long lost father. We've also seen Shia LaBeouf come in as MacGruber's son. So yeah, there's been some fun ones over the years, and I am happy to see MacGruber back. Okay. Let's get into our next sketch, which is called Kid Clash, with Will playing Mark Zaz, and we have Aidy Bryant as the kid who gets stuck in the cream. So, Sammy, over to you on this one. What are your thoughts on Kid Clash?
I really enjoyed this sketch. I was like a big Nickelodeon game show kid growing up, to the point where they would like play Legends of the Hidden Temple reruns at like 6:30 in the morning on school days, and I would like watch it in the morning. So this was like made for me in a way. I just thought like, the set and they filmed it like it was like one of those shows, and like that element to it like really like added to the whole thing. I thought Aidy, like the character she kind of plays, is like, she's so good at playing these characters where she's like a child basically, and seeing her kind of interact with Will's like host character, I thought that was really fun. And the only thing I would say that would have made this sketch even better was I felt like there was such kind of like a missed opportunity to like really escalate the kind of like gross out messiness. I feel like she's like in the cream for the entire sketch. I think you could have thrown a little something else in there, but I'd say overall, I was really digging this one.
Yeah, me too, actually. For all the talk about how great Bill Hader was as a game show host while he was on the cast, and then later on Kenan Thompson also as well did a lot of those roles, or maybe simultaneously. Will Forte does play a very funny game show host, and I think he did a really good job with the dark humor we got to see in this one. Jillian, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this was really a classic Will Forte, like the crazy voice, the just getting darker and absurd and creepy, her getting her period in there, like it was just really going there. The whipped cream is adversity and the flag is your unfulfilled potential.
Yeah, this was very funny. I know a lot of people in the chat are comparing it to Double Dare. For any Canadians who are watching, there was a show on a channel called YTV, which is a kids. It was a kids show channel, and they had a show called Uh-Oh, and there was they did a lot of games that were exactly like this. So just for our Canadian listeners, okay, Nicole, what were your thoughts on Kid Clash?
I agree with Sammy when you said that it felt like there was this opportunity with the physical comedy and this big like bowl of cream and this like tub of cream to escalate to some level, and I felt like it was right in front of us, and it just kept going and going and didn't take that leap that I felt like was the natural progression of a sketch like that. And so that was a bit disappointing, just because like we have that image of like 80 playing a little kid with this huge tub of cream. Like, okay, it's going to be really fun, and like she's going to do something kind of wild with it, and it felt like she just kind of kept doing the same motion, like playing around with it. It was a little bit was falling off the edge, but not really. So that I'd say that the setup was better than the execution on this one. I think it had a lot of untapped potential, and I think it's also just a very nostalgic opportunity for people of so many different generations. Like that setup, anyone could trace that vibe back to their own childhood, I think, and I know I certainly can. So it felt like I still got the nostalgia factor out of it, even though I didn't quite get the reward that I was kind of waiting for. So it was sort of like a yes and then no at the end. But I'm happy that I have the image in my head at the very least of that setup.
Yes, definitely. Sammy, did I go to you already on this? Sorry, I just yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so let's get into the second MacGruber that we saw tonight, and MacGruber comes up again, and this time I believe we had Aristotle in the intro package for the second MacGruber, so at least we did have a slight appearance of a cast member, Aristotle, who played Spider-Man last week and was slightly in MacGruber this week. But yes, he is here, and we got some QAnon talk, and that MacGruber has his nose and mouth cut of his mask, and he has COVID mixed with syphilis. So this was kind of wild. Sammy, what were your thoughts on it?
I mean, again, it's just like I enjoyed what they did with this concept of like MacGruber meets COVID. I thought just a lot of really funny like imagery and like prop work with the horse worms that were the spaghetti. And all the different kind of COVID treatments that he was, giving himself, the disproven COVID treatments, I thought was very funny. I'd say, yeah, I mean, just like the first one, I enjoyed it. I think the third one, I mean, we'll get to the third one, felt a little bit more flat to me, but I thought these first two were very solid.
Yeah. Jillian, anything on the second one that you enjoyed or didn't?
Yeah, I did not notice Aristotle, so I'll look for him tomorrow when I rewatch. So that's fun. But yeah, I liked the direction that they started to go, that now he's reading and following science, and then just completely threw that out the window to go this route. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was just great prop work, physical comedy, wild MacGrubering.
Exactly. Nicole, what about you?
I liked this one. I think it probably was the order of them felt good, of all of them throughout the night. And this one, yeah, the Covifilus, was that it? That was pretty memorable. And then also, did anyone notice he said in some context, pulling double duty, and it kind of felt like an SNL in joke for me. I was like, okay, I see. I don't know what you're putting down that I'm picking up, but something's going on here that I kind of enjoyed. So I also enjoyed that one.
Okay. All right. Next, we have Cinema Classics with Reese DeWatt And this time we get, I believe this is our 11th time we're seeing Reese DeWatt, and our ninth time we're getting Cinema Classics. So this time we get to see Kate McKinnon and Chloe Feynman interact with Will Forte. Kate, who I believe is playing a version of Ingrid Bergman over here. And yeah, this is always an interesting recurring sketch that we get. Chad, I'd love to hear your opinion as well. Jillian, I'll start with you on this one. What were your thoughts on Cinema Classics?
This one, it didn't really hit me. And now the Keenan name was funny. And then I'm kind of getting sad that we didn't really see a lot of Keenan Will interaction, and it was never referenced that like Keenan was on the cast with him previously. So that just hit me. But I got it. I got the joke, and I was kind of over it right away. We got to see Rocco, who did promise he would make an appearance last week, and there he was. So that was, I guess, fun. But this wasn't my favorite.
Okay. Yeah. Nicole, did you enjoy this more? I think I always, the thing that works for me, I want to say, is about these sketches is the Keenan parts. I think the Keenan parts always get me. What about you?
Yeah, Keenan can just hold anything down and give it some something. Keenan can always save pretty much anything. This was one of the less memorable ones for me, I would say. I do enjoy like a Kate McKinnon character in black and white, like that whole vibe when there's this like mysterious semi-transatlantic accent going on that is very confusing and not sure quite what it is. That was pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, I this one I don't have much to report. I enjoyed it. I think the little taste that we got of Keenan just sort of poked out as a reminder of like, why isn't Keenan kind of more all over the episode? And we did get in the promos, Keenan was the cast member in the promos for the week, and they talked about it a little bit, how they were on the cast together. But once you're actually in the episode, it would have been nice for that to have been infused a bit more. And as we keep going, I think the main point that we talked about in the beginning about how it felt like very much there was like the Will and Kristen stuff and then the separate cast, and it just felt like it felt like the little bits of that we got, particularly of Keenan, just reminded us like, where's Keenan? Like, we need more, which is, I guess, a pretty good problem to have when you show up on screen and people are upset that you're not more on screen in that episode. So it's not an awful spot to be in.
Okay. Sammy, your thoughts on Reese DeWatt's appearance?
I was happy for his appearance, and then the rest of the sketch, kind of unfolded as it did. I mean, I don't know. It's just, you'd think with, having Will Forte and Kate McKinnon like in a sketch together like this, that there'd be a lot more kind of weird energy to it. And I feel like sometimes these Cinema Classics sketches can go there. I mean, I think was the John Mulaney Bird sketch, was that a Cinema Classic? Yeah. And that I think has that level of kind of weird energy that I think was missing, a bit of a missed opportunity for having Will Forte be in the studio. Good performances, I would say, from like Will and Kate and Chloe. I think this is something we've seen, from them like a lot. So it wasn't necessarily anything new, but yeah, definitely one of the weaker points for me of the night.
Okay, so great line with what are you making for dinner? A mess. Great line. I love that. That was really hilarious. But then I really felt like where the sketch went wrong a little bit was they should have gone down the path of Chloe Feynman and Will Forte kissing. And I felt like that was like there at the end of it. And it was like, do you agree, Nicole?
I just think that's what you personally want to see.
No. It's nothing. No, but I'm saying there was something there where it was like, oh, she's 18.
You're right.
And I thought the whole thing was going to be that he's gaslighting her because he really wants to hook up with the daughter.
You're totally right. You're right.
And I was
I'm
like,
just messing with
but
you.
it wasn't. Yeah, he just wanted to drive her mad. And that was like where I didn't get it. So I was saying, I feel like there was a trail there.
That's the theme of the night, is people who almost kissing who should have kissed Colin and Che.
Yes.
What happened?
Thank you for that.
The hot take. It's the headline.
Yes.
That's
okay.
The
So
headline. Where was the kiss?
Okay. So speaking of kissing, let's talk about Three Fun, which is a threesome sketch where we have Mikey Day and Hardy Gardner, who are bringing in a third person into their marriage, who is Will Forte, who comes on into their hotel room. And I just want to say, this to me was my favorite sketch of the night. I really thought there was a lot here to dig through, and I felt like Will's character, this was very classic. And this was the type of like new 10-to-1 Will stuff that I felt like a lot of people were hoping that they would get tonight. So Nicole, I'll start with you on this one. What were your thoughts on Three Fun?
Yeah, when we've been talking about this episode for a while, and I said it'll just hopefully feel like a series of 10-to-1s all night long, and that's exactly what this was a 10-to-1 that was not 10-to-1. It was just smack in the middle of the episode, and it was a lot of fun. There were a few moments where that physical like repetition style comedy of like where it throughout the episode a few moments, and in this one it was like that, like shaking the bed, and with Will's style where he like does something over and over, and just when you think it's over it keeps going. It's like with the spelling business, and it's and it's just Q. It reminded me of that a little bit, even though that was verbal and this was physical. It felt kind of like of the same vein. So that just felt very authentically Will to me, and I really liked it. I will say I kind of and this is keeping with the theme that we've been talking about, but I kind of wish that the premise wasn't that the third just wanted the girl. I feel like that was kind of the easy kind of way to do it. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit like maybe he just wanted the guy, or maybe the guy in the marriage didn't want, like, I don't know, there could have been something like that, but maybe that's just after the Che and Jost fake out. Now I'm like feeling like there could have been a little bit more. I don't know.
We're not there yet.
A little homophobic, if you ask me.
Okay.
A little homophobic.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay.
Anytime.
Yes. Sammy. So, yeah, to me, the chat seems overwhelmingly to say that this is their favorite sketch as well. What did you think of it?
Yeah, easily my favorite of the night as well. A lot of great lines in here, like the running gag of, my name is Tate, not Taint. Very easy laugh for me. And yeah, I had the exact same thought, Nicole, with him slamming the bed against the wall, because I watched a bunch of classic Will Forte sketches earlier today, including the spelling bee one, and it's the exact sort of, it's in the same vein as that beat, and Will Forte is so good at that. During that moment, my TV went black for a second. So I wasn't sure if Will was hitting the wall so hard that it really just got through the airwaves as well. But it's also a funny connection because we're obviously as SNL fans going to kind of compare this episode to the Jason Sudeikis episode earlier in the season, and different sketch from the Jason Ego parent teacher conference, but almost similar sort of cucking element. And that was also a highlight of that episode for me as well. So maybe a running theme of the season here.
Yeah. Interesting. And also, I mean, I know that there's some people like the sketch, but didn't love how much taint stuff there was in here. I think that is a very classic Will Forte thing, to call someone a different name and just keep going with it. I mean, that's a very a MacGruber TV series thing that happens as well. So I will also say this sketch is written by Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel, and Will Steven, for people who want to know that. There were some good lines in this one. Jillian, what were your thoughts on it?
I'm pro taint, so that was great. Did we all notice that the clock was working though? And then that really threw me. The clock had the right time, but it was a minute off, I guess, because of a delay in case they needed to censor something. So that was fun. But yeah, I agree. It was like a classic late night sketch for SNL. And so that was great. But then it really threw me because I was like, oh, we haven't even gotten to the band yet. And that's what made it feel really heavy in the beginning, and the timing, I think, of the episode was off. But sketch wise, it was probably my favorite as well.
Yes, and I love that the chat is giving us whether they're a pro-taint or anti-taint.
Yes.
So thank you for that. We'll put up a poll at the end of the show. Pro-taint.
It's
or
insane.
anti-taint.
This guy's taint. We have a
Yes,
sketch
exactly.
comedy crossover.
Okay. All right. So good stuff from our Italian band we saw tonight. Måneskin. I think I got that right. So the fun, good energy. Anyone have anything that they want to say about the band, or should we go on to update? Okay.
The only it's not an important thing to add. It's just like I was like, who are these people? And then they started performing the first song. I'm like, oh, I know the song. So I know stuff that's not hip hop rap is proven tonight. So
yeah, I mean, "Beggin" is a very popular song this year. So yeah, so
not that impressive then.
Yeah,
by me.
good,
yeah.
Good stuff we got from them tonight. Okay. Let's talk about Weekend Update, which, like I said, to me, this could have been my favorite Weekend Update of the year. And I think that though they felt like separate shows, and that was really like my hot take for the night, I do feel like the vibes of having someone like Will in 8H, having some fun, I feel like that stuff sort of translates over to Weekend Update in a way where they're like, let's have some fun this week. Let's like, because to me, like the vibes of the episode felt like stronger in a way compared to last week. And I know some episodes go up and down, but I just felt like good vibes all around. So Sammy, let me start with you. Let's start with Chen Biao. We got to see Bowen Yang return as Chen Biao for the 5th time, the first time since Chris Rock's season 46 premiere. Were you happy to see Bowen return with Chen Biao?
I'm always happy to see Bowen return or have any new character on Update. So yes, really enjoyed this one. And it's funny because like, this might have been like the weakest like piece on Update for me of the night, but it was still like outstanding. I still thought it was very great. Lots of good. But I mean, I really enjoyed the visual humor at the end with the House of Gucci hat. So many like kind of like Las Culturistas-esque sort of Bowen references that I know Nicole appreciates, and I'm sure a bunch of people do as well. But yeah, no, I have no notes. Always happy to see Bowen on Update.
Okay, Jillian, I feel like it had been enough time since we last saw Chen Biao that this was a really fun time to bring him back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm with everyone. I'll take any Bowen character. I thought this was the right way to introduce him and to bring up the Olympics. I loved the Che Diaz reference for Michael Che. I will only be calling him Che Diaz from now on. Yeah, so I thought that was all great, and I thought it was really just on fire the entire Weekend Update tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And Nicole, I know you were talking about how this was a very like Peacock heavy episode, and I was thinking to myself what Bowen was going to be on Weekend Update, and in the same vein as the iceberg, I was wondering if he was going to come out as a peacock at one point. But yes, how were you excited to see Chen Biao come out?
Yeah, so I texted you when I was thinking about it. I thought Bowen was going to be the green M&M because of what's going on with the green M&M, how they made it not slutty anymore. Like that's the word going around, because the green M&M had these fabulous like tall white heeled boots, and now they just have sneakers. And they're all the M&Ms are getting changed around a little bit to so I just thought that like that discourse Bowen would have just nailed like perfectly, brilliantly, and I would have loved like whatever they put together with that. So that's what I would have loved. But this is one of my favorite Bowen characters, and any other like Las Culturistas out there, you know that this was just like a condensed, dense version of what we get on Las Cult, and it was just the biggest treat in the world. Like I squealed. I think the loudest I like reacted to anything in the whole episode was when Bowen called Che Diaz, because like just knowing like how much Bowen has analyzed Che Diaz on the Sex and the City reboot, it was just so satisfying to me as a Bowen fan and a Las Culture fan, and I was shaking and freaking out. And it also, we have to mention, it came on the heels of Che kind of nominating Bowen as an update anchor in the future. That was pretty huge. So for that to happen right before Bowen came on was very, very exciting. And I just, update was amazing. And this felt more than most Bowen characters, even though he always infuses a lot of the pop culture stuff, which is one of the reasons I love him and I love everything he does. But it felt like especially a treat for like hardcore Bowen fans who like follow his pop culture takes on his podcast and social media.
Yeah, definitely. And I had definitely been advocating for Bowen to be considered for a Weekend Update anchor in the future. So I think that would be really fun. A lot of people in chat are talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse OJ joke. That was a great joke from Weekend Update.
The setup of it was so funny. Gen Z icon Kyle Rittenhouse. That was so funny.
Yeah. Great Colin joke tonight. Okay. Then we got Staying Cozy with Sarah Sherman as she comes out for the first time since the Jonathan Majors episode. And I love that this is a recurring bit. Obviously, SNL knows that we just loved what we got to see. And they really like escalated what we saw from the previous time that Sarah was out there. So, Jillian, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on seeing Sarah Sherman come out?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was enough time since the last time, but just getting to see Colin being roasted to his face by whether it's Che or now Sarah, he's a really good sport about it. So I have to give him all the credit for that, but it's really fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Nicole, did you have some lines here that you really loved?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, she didn't waste any time. She just like jumped right out the gate saying, "Oh, I'm fine. My pubes are thicker than clothes." Like right out the gate, like going right in. And I think that like the writing was very smart because like they know that we know where this is going because it was done pretty recently. So they didn't like waste as much time as maybe the first time in escalating the structure of the jokes. And so I thought that was just a very smart strategic move of like, and also it was a jam-packed update. So that was also probably a good way to keep it in the show to get shorter at the jump so that the end can be a lot more going on, like boom, 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 like all of those posters. There were a lot more of them this time than last time because they just jumped right into them. No time wasted. I was obsessed with this. It was like I just was smiling the whole time.
Yeah, Sammy, I mean, a lot of surprises we've had in season 47. I think if we went back to September and the end of September, we talked about, what we were expecting to see this season. I think the thing we would have thought we would have seen from Sarah Sherman was like a lot of the 10-to-1 sketches and the crazy stuff that we were all expecting. But it's funny that, we're halfway through the season and she's really known at this point for mostly this, which is coming on Update twice and just ripping on Colin Jost. And it's hilarious and great, but it's a little surprising.
Yeah, I mean, especially with having Will Forte in the building, I was at least hoping to see some kind of interaction between the two of them. But like I alluded to earlier, I thought this was a really great piece. I was like a little worried at first to see like, could she kind of, use this format again and like still like kind of live up to that first appearance? Because after her first appearance on Update, that was the next morning on Twitter, everyone was like, "Oh, like, no, I didn't know SNL was still funny." Those really stupid tweets you see from people who don't watch SNL. But no, I mean, honestly, like we're talking about Bowen being an Update anchor. I mean, after Bowen's appearance tonight and the Sarah appearance, I'm thinking I want Bowen and Sarah as the Update anchors when Colin and Che whenever they leave the show. I think Update is like really, really great right now. So it's not like I want them to leave, necessarily at the end of the season, but when they do, I think that would be a really interesting way to shake it up.
For sure. Okay, and then we got Alex Moffat, guy who just bought a boat. We see him live for the first time since the Daniel Kaluuya episode last season. He was supposed to be on for the Sudeikis episode earlier this season and was cut, actually. So this is our 7th edition of Guy Who Just Bought a Boat. And in comes Pete Davidson, and we had a fun Colin Jost, Pete Davidson, and Alex Moffat threesome. Or three fun. Nicole, what were your thoughts on Guy Who Just Bought a Boat?
It was, first of all, as you're describing it, I'm realizing the ironic, shocking star of Weekend Update actually was Colin Jost, because every single segment kind of centered on him on some level, which was, they were all making fun of him, but it all kind of went back to him. So I guess that means he is good at taking jokes, and he's just a really good punching bag, has a very punchable face, as he has described himself, title of his book. So that's very apt. This was perfect. It was the perfect fusion, like the most magical blend of a pre-existing SNL recurring character and a pop culture news story, and a pop culture news story that happens to feature two of the most high-profile SNL cast members on the current cast. So it was just this very seamless course of events and combination of events, and it just felt like I was watching something that it felt very like a rich moment in history. Like, okay, this represents a moment in time, and it's a good way for SNL to position itself with current news stories. And it's like everyone has different outlets, different, like publications are going to have articles about it, or Twitter accounts are going to have memes or all these things, and SNL is at this great position to position itself with a sketch. So, you could have a meme, you could have an article, you can have a sketch, and that was just done very well. And yeah, I mean, this is a news story that I, as if you know me, you probably could guess, is something I'm very interested in, and like just very intrigued by, like this bizarre, curious case of the Staten Island ferry turned comedy show venue. So I will be following this whole thing.
It's very fascinating.
It was great.
Yeah, it's great. And Sammy, there was one point where they're talking about how they bought the boat with a third guy, and I was 100% sure they were going to say they bought the boat with Big Wet.
I wasn't expecting that, but that would have been a nice little callback there. No, I was really happy. I mean, I always enjoy whenever Alex Moffat gets airtime, and I really enjoy this character as well. And I wasn't sure if we were going to see him again, since Anna Dresden, who wrote the previous sketches or previous bits on Update, has left the show. Do we know if she came back to write this one at all, or John? Or...
I don't know the Weekend Update writers right now, but we'll know tomorrow.
But no, overall, the thing I really liked about this one is seeing like the character that Alex Moffat portrays like interact with Pete. Like, I think that was like what made this like, a solid recurring bit to like a very memorable one, because obviously he's always interacting with Colin and you kind of understand that dynamic, but throwing another person into it, especially Pete, really, brought like a kind of breath of fresh air to the sketch, and obviously it was super topical. So yeah, definitely a very memorable way to end Update.
For sure. And Jillian, I think that Pete wasn't completely with us tonight. I don't know that he was all there.
Yeah, I don't know. It reminded me of like season 2 or 3 Pete, where he was just like constantly giggling like from the first second he was in any sketch, and we were like, come on, get it together, Pete, we are rooting for you. And then he really got it together in the last couple of seasons. And so to me, it was fun to see him just like completely break the whole time. He was just having so much fun laughing at it. And I mean, even when Alex first came out and got kind of like a groany audience reaction, it seemed like he maybe improv the line of like, oh, you're not gonna like this guy, like to their reaction, which I thought was fun. And then they just like they were just having a ball doing this sketch together, and it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, the line that definitely got me, sorry, so I was gonna say, Nicole, the line that really got me from Pete was the what happened to Bloomberg.
Yeah,
that was good.
That one got me. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah,
Sorry,
as a New Yorker, I can attest that is the feeling, that it's like Bloomberg was our mayor 2 seconds ago. So that was a very real line for anybody in New York. I was gonna say that perhaps improv from Moffat almost felt like his Update anchor audition. So we got a lot of names going around. I don't know.
Yes. For sure. Okay. We finish up Weekend Update. We almost got a kiss, but at one point during Weekend Update, but it didn't happen. So definitely noted. But yes, we do finish Weekend Update, and we move on to our third edition of Clancy T. Baccalaureate and Jackie Snat sing songs about spaceships, toddlers, Model T cars, and jars of beer. And chat, I will say this is always a really fun one for me. This is a third edition from March 2008. We had it with Jonah Hill. April 2009, we had it with Seth Rogen. And I always love this one because it kind of feels like another show that I really enjoy is Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I always love when Wayne Brady sings songs like on the spot. And I know that this is all rehearsed and planned and stuff, but I always feel like there is like an artistry to what they're doing where they eventually build up to the crescendo of singing that final song. And I was just waiting for it. And it definitely gave me, when they were singing Oh Football Sports, gave me the biggest laugh of the night for sure. So Sammy, were you happy to see this recurring sketch from Will Forte and Kristen Wiig?
Yeah, this honestly might be my real hot take of the show, is that of all of Will Forte's characters and recurring sketches, I was never like always like super into this one. Like it wasn't one I came back to. And even today when I was going through and watching a bunch of his old sketches, I didn't revisit this one. So maybe that kind of helped like hit a little bit more for me. I mean, I do enjoy seeing just the absurdity on screen and the full-on commitment between Will and Kristen and Mckinnon. So it was almost like you could tell somebody this was a sketch from when they were all in the cast together, because they were the only cast members in the sketch. So it was almost plucked out of time there. But I mean, for people who are like big fans of this character, I'm happy they brought it back. And yeah, I love the energy. But honestly, the highlight for me was the fact that Will introduced the musical guest in like hair and makeup afterwards. That might be a really hot take, but yeah.
I don't think that was a hot take. I think that was generally well regarded as like you have to be in the building to hear that. I have been in the building before, and oftentimes the host will wait there to come back from commercial, and they'll be interacting with the audience, and you could hear the audience was laughing a lot as they got back from commercial. So I definitely, that's the moment where you like want to be in the building to hear what Will was saying to the audience. Okay, Jillian, what did you think of our third edition of Jackie and Clancy?
Yeah, yes, I wish that they had integrated some new cast into the sketch. I was happy that this was the singing callback sketch instead of what was the one with Fred Armisen, Patrick and Gunther.
Yes,
I prefer this one. So yeah, and it just like it went so crazy, but I thought Toddler Hell was a bop. I'll listen to that one tomorrow.
Yeah, Nicole, what did you think of this sketch?
Oh, I loved it. This was one of my high points, absolutely, of the night. I love this recurring sketch. I had wished it had been done more and we had more iterations to go off of, but I think that also kind of made it more special that they're bringing back a recurring sketch, but not one that had been run into the ground, so to speak. You know, that's a phrase that people use a lot for that era as iconic. It only took me 57 minutes, but here we are, iconic.
You did it.
I did it. So that one critique of that era is there were so many recurring sketches that were done countless times. And I think this was a great one to bring back because it was one that was well liked, but not frequently done over and over. So I thought just like strategically, it was a great decision and it made me smile. It's like, sometimes I'm very, sometimes I like to be pretentious a little bit in a way that I don't like about myself, but I sometimes like things where you have to understand something, and it just felt really good to let go of that side of myself, to be like, I truly have no idea what's going on, but I can't stop smiling. And that's how I felt.
That is like the Will Forte specialty, is that you don't have any idea what's going on, but you're enjoying yourself. And that's what makes him so great.
I just have to like take the stick out of my, ass.
Yes.
and relax. And it's just so much fun. And that's how I felt the whole time.
For sure. And this was a lot of fun. I think you really you have to buy in to, that's the thing about Will Forte as a cast member. You have to buy in, right? Like you have to accept like the world of the sketch that he's creating. You have to buy into it. And then ends up being a lot of fun. So glad we got another edition of Jackie and Clancy here. Obviously would have loved to see more things, but I do think it's very rare in SNL times where you can watch a sketch and have no idea what era it took place in. And that was kind of fun about this, that like in time, people will not remember this took place in 2022. So that is a very, very unique thing that we got from this sketch. Okay. To wrap up the night, we ended up getting some stuff cut. So let's talk about that for a second. So we had 2 cut sketches, one called Architects that was cut live, one called Angels that was cut live. Angels was a sketch that was originally going to be in the Paul Rudd episode that they gave to to Will Forte. We also had Please Don't Destroy. Their pre-tape was cut live, which was also cut from last week's episode. So I hope that we eventually get to see that. It's a pre-tape called New Personalities. So the definitely the order of things definitely got mixed up here, but we finally finished off with our final MacGruber of the night, where MacGruber is dressed like the QAnon shaman. So I definitely feel like the escalation was here a little bit. Jillian, did you enjoy our third edition of MacGruber from the evening?
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. I mean, if we weren't going to get a classic 10-1, I was fine going out on this note. I thought it was hilarious.
For sure. Nicole, what about you?
It was the perfect note to end on. I mean, Ellen Pompeo eats babies. Any Grey's Anatomy person, like that was just so specific. And like, if you're a Grey's person, you probably screamed. I certainly did. And yeah, a lot of great lines in here. And it wouldn't have been this episode if the last line was not about Peacock. It was, though I do like some streamers on Peacock. Boom. It was perfect. Like, I mean, they owned it. They were like, we're going all in on Peacock tonight. And it was like, you just have to own it and joke about it. And that's exactly what happened. That's the last line of all of the sketches of the night. And like, I really like that. I thought they just owned what they were doing here. And it was funny. It was great.
Yeah, I believe that there was one instance where they did not do 3 MacGrubers in the history of the MacGrubers on SNL. I think that was the Jonah Hill episode in 2008. I think they only got in 2 MacGrubers, and then one ended up going online on the NBC website. But I'm glad we got the third one in to finish off the trilogy. Sammy, take us home. Were you happy to see the third MacGruber?
I mean, like you guys, I was like looking at the clock. I'm like, are we going to get anything? Are we going to get another MacGruber? So it was nice. It helped me, it's going to help me sleep tonight knowing that we got a third MacGruber in. And easily the best part of this one for me was the cutaway to the empty stool and saying, this is what remains of America's soul. I thought that was really, really funny. This is just my chance to tell NBC and Peacock to greenlight MacGruber for season 2. He really got me in that monologue. I thought that was the announcement, and that didn't happen. But no, it was great to see MacGruber back, and a great way to end this episode.
For sure. So fun night from Will Forte. Definitely a weird SNL episode in terms of just like logistical SNL stuff. The cast, obviously being somewhat absent a little bit. So we're definitely going to break that down later on in the week. Before we get to our ratings in chat, I will get you to give us your ratings out of 10 in the chat. We'll bring those up on screen. I want to say RIP to John Bowman, who was a former writer on SNL. We got to see the bumper or the obituary bumper go up tonight. And he used to write on In Living Color. And he was one of the co-creators of the series Martin in the 90s. So wanted to mention that as well. Okay, chat, give us your ratings out of 10 for the evening, and panelists, I will do the same. Sammy Kay, I will start with you. Give us your rating for the evening.
I had really high expectations for this episode, and I'd say overall they were met. I definitely, similar to people here, would have liked to see a little bit more interaction with the cast. And, like I alluded to at the beginning, maybe another cameo or two, but I'd give this a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay, Jillian, what about you?
Yeah, even though there was no Tim Calhoun, at this moment, I'm going to give it an 8.5 potato chips out of 10.
Oh, there you go. Okay, at least nobody's spitting them in your mouth, Jillian. So to end the night, with the way that this is positioned, this podcast, I actually could pull that off here.
Here you go.
Okay, thank you. Great bit at the end. Nicole, give us your rating out of 10.
Yeah, it's a solid 8.1 for me. It's like it's good. I should keep track of all my ratings, but it's definitely top tier of the season.
Yes, for sure. For me, definitely upper tier of the season. I know this is a weird episode in the context of the rest of the season, but for me, I definitely have to say that I was so happy to have Will back. I just felt like this was just a fun experience to see him on the show, something that we've been waiting for a long time. So you're coming to the right place for people who would probably enjoy this more than others. So I know that there are definitely things that you can argue with and say that there was missing from the episode, including ton of cast members. In a way, it was Paul Rudd-esque with how little we got of some of the cast tonight. But I'll take it. I think that it's been 12 years since we saw Will Forte. So for me, I'm going to go with just my best objectivity. I'll go with an 8.5 out of 10 for the evening. So I think that's being fair. I'm not going to do 10 out of 10 just because it's Will. Okay. All right, let's talk about what's coming up this week on the SNL Network. Always appreciate everybody who joins us for the live shows, and why not come back for the rest of the week to talk through the episode a little bit more. Join us on Monday night as we are here for our roundtable. We have a very fun panel on Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern to break down everything we saw from Will Forte. We're going to talk a lot more on Monday about Will Forte's SNL career, go back to some of his, the best sketches that we've seen from him and really what the moment was like. So we'll get to dive a lot deeper with that on Monday night and talk through everything we saw from this episode, including the return of Kristen Wiig as well. On Wednesday, we have a patron feedback show. And if you've ever wanted to podcast about Saturday Night Live and you're listening to Sammy and Nicole and Jillian's takes and you're like, hey, I could do this. I could talk about SNL. Go to patreon.com/the SNL Network. And that is one of the great perks of becoming a patron of the SNL Network. We can talk on Wednesday evenings this season after the episode about the show. You can join me. We'll answer questions from the SNL community and go over what's happening in SNL social media, including Pete and Jost buying a boat. We're going to talk all about what social media had to say about that. On Thursday, we have Hollywood Dish. Nicole, do you want to promo Hollywood Dish for everybody?
Yes, so it's a great week to promo it because we were pretty accurate this week. So Hollywood Dish is a podcast where Rebecca North and I go through the biggest pop culture stories of the week and in the context of how we think SNL might utilize it or implement it. So different news stories and where it might fit into the episodes. And if you go back and listen to our most recent episode, you'll see we got a lot covered a lot of ground that ended up making it into the episode. So I feel pretty happy about that.
Yes, for sure. You guys were on point, definitely. And then join us next week. We're back next week. And next week will be a very fun hot take show. We have Willem Dafoe, somebody who people have been expecting would host for a long time and is definitely in the news right now. So it's very exciting for, an older host to come in for the first time. We got to see him a little bit tonight, a little tease for next week with musical guest Katy Perry. And I will say this is going to be our last episode of SNL before we take our Olympic break. So come join us next week. It'll be fun to talk through it. And then we'll be off for a little bit after that in terms of SNL episodes as we head towards the back half of season 47. Okay. Sammy Kay, I have a request in the chat. Will John and Sammy kiss?
Don't be homophobic.
Sammy, what do you think?
I'm down.
Okay.
I don't want to be homophobic.
Where can people reach out to you, Sammy Kay?
You guys can find me at that Sammy Kay on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And please, if you guys have not checked out our Superfan Takeover episodes, they are a lot of fun. And we most recently did a host draft around the holidays. So if you have not checked out that supersized Superfan episode, please do so.
Definitely. Jillian, such a pleasure to get to hear from you. You do so much great work over at Entertainment Weekly. So where can the listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at Jillian Sed, SED, and read our recap of this episode on Entertainment Weekly at EW.com, recapped by Andy Hogland, who's a frequent guest on this show as well.
Definitely. And Nicole, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Always great to hear from you on the Hot Take Show. So tell the listeners where they can reach out to you.
This was truly a pleasure. You can reach out to me personally at Nicole Rovine on any social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And then also, as I mentioned before, Hollywood Dish is a really fun place to chat with me in our live chats if you're on YouTube. And then our social medias, John will speak a bit more about that. But as always, doing a lot of fun stuff there. So definitely keep up with us there too.
Yeah, we had a lot of great stuff on social media this week, including a great chart showing all the former cast members who have returned to host. So you can follow us at the SNL Network, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. You can follow me at Jon Schneider 24 to reach out to me about anything to do with SNL and the SNL Network. Please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And I just want to say, as we close the show tonight, I started, podcasting a little bit over a year and a half ago. Sometimes I get to talk about my journey to podcast about Saturday Night Live. And I never thought I was going to get to talk about Will Forte Forte hosting SNL, my favorite cast member of all time. So thank you everybody for bearing with me during this journey, because I'm just so thrilled that he got to do this tonight, and I can't wait to break it down for the rest of the week. So thank you everybody for joining us in the chat tonight. All right, for Sammy, Jillian, Nicole, and myself, Jon Schneider, and everybody who stayed up late with us on the Hot Take Show, we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.
Team Taint.
Pro Taint or anti-Taint?